Welcome to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome you in to day number 2 of the 5-Pack right here at the Better Sports Network. Kyle Elfrink hanging out with you. This is your spot to be, to know what you might have missed, or at least what you should care about that you might have missed. Get you set for the night to come and have a little fun going to the Wayback Files and opening a pack of cards. That is what we do each and every day here on the 5-Pack for a full hour from noon to 1 o'clock Eastern. I want to thank our producer, Heather Klein. I got to admit, I kind of screwed things up yesterday. Yesterday was day 1 of the show, and I did not show up with a button-up, nor did I show up with a freshly coiffed haircut, but today I did. So I kind of did it backwards. Day 1, I looked sloppy and messy and foolish. Day 2, I got a button up. I'm official. I'm taking it seriously, as they like to say. If you are new to us here at the Better Sports Network, welcome aboard. You can find us online at bettersports.com. Give us a follow at Better Network on Twitter. There's a lot of other ways to follow us, but those are like the most convenient ways. For those who are on the app, great to have you with us. Do want to remind you, I didn't know yesterday if the chat room was open, so I didn't promote it. Chat room is open. So if you got any thoughts, you can always chat us, and maybe I'll say, oh, that's interesting. Let's talk about that. Maybe I'll just ignore it. I can't really promise. We got a lot to get to. It's an hour. And like I noted yesterday, it's a very, very fast hour. Like I said, what do? Well, we give you 5 things that mattered from last night. We give you 5 things that will matter tonight. And then we'll finish things off with our pack break. Yesterday, we had a 1989 Topps baseball pack. Today, we go a year earlier to a 1988 Donruss baseball pack. I was just on with Moose and Keith about an hour ago. And I told them this, and I will tell you this. Ugly cards. There is nothing exciting about these cards, but the players are exciting. The stories are exciting. So we'll get to that coming up in just a bit. Let us begin, though, with our 5 things that did matter from last night. And we previewed this yesterday. And yesterday we did really well with telling you what to follow. And then it actually came true. Like Max Scherzer looked like Max Scherzer. Jordan Walker got a hit in a 10th straight game to start his career. And oh, yeah, the Tampa Bay Rays moved to 10-0. And unlike all the other games where Tampa has just like shown up and blasted the opposition, whether it's Detroit or the A's or the Nationals, last night they were tooth and nail, a tight affair with the Boston Red Sox. And then a key component in their lineup, Brandon Lowe, came up in the 8th inning.
2, swung on, high drive, deep to right center, that baby is gone! Home run for Brandon Lowe, and the Rays will grab the lead. One at bat for Brandon Lowe.
Well, the Rays are now 10-0, or as we like to say around these parts, 10 and Low. That's what we say here after the win against the Red Sox 1-0. And what matters there, and thank you, courtesy of the Tampa Bay Rays television broadcast, what matters there is Brandon Lowe himself, off to a really good start. Now, here's the thing with Lowe. If there is a bat in this Tampa Bay Rays lineup that you fear, I think that's your guy. They do have Wander Franco, who is emerging, looking a little bit better, a little more pop already, a couple of home runs on the season. Randy Arozarena is one of those exciting power speed combo players. He's legitimate, but I think everybody thinks about the Tampa Bay Rays and they think that it's kind of a ho-hum offense with no real threats, and they win games like 4-1, and they're never going to club you over the head. And to a point, that's true, I think, in the last 4 or 5 years. But honestly, Brandon Lowe, who had the key hit last night, has always kind of been the important piece to this puzzle. And it doesn't really hit you until you look at his career. But in year one, the Rays second baseman finished third in Rookie of the Year voting. In year two, he was eighth in MVP voting. In year three, he was 10th in MVP voting. Now, last year was year four. What happened in year four? He played 62 games. He was awful. The numbers were brutally bad. What happened? He had a stress fracture in his back. They pretty well shut him down in the second half of the season. He only had 62 games. It appears, if you're to look at the early returns, things are looking better. 3 home runs, 9 RBIs. OPS right now for Brandon Lau is over 1,100. The thing with Lau, and we saw this, I guess it was in, was it 2020? Yeah, the COVID year. Rays made the World Series. And we got into that postseason, and Brandon Lau had a massive, massive year. That was the year he finished 8th in the MVP voting. He's one of the best in baseball. And he showed up in October, and he was being counted on to be the difference maker for the Rays. And what happened? Strikeout after strikeout after strikeout. The guy could not make contact. And that has been a feature of his career throughout the success, the highs, and throughout the disasters, the lows. Thus far this season, 7 strikeouts in 32 plate appearances. That's a K rate below 22%. That is huge. Last year, he dropped from about 25, 26 to 22. Now he's at 21. Now, he can get away with being a success if he's even in that 22 to 24 range, but right now he's at 21. So if he holds on to that, things could be legit. It matters. When he's putting the ball in play, the guy, when he makes contact, the ball travels. The other thing with Lau, and I don't think this will change, but if you own him in a fantasy league or you think about Brandon Lau, understand the dude really does not hit lefties. And Tampa will use him against lefties because he's right there in the heart of the order. But they really become a much different lineup when a left-hander is on the hill. For his career, Brandon Lau is hitting .227 against southpaws. His on-base percentage is .285. He ain't good against lefties. Now, he can still be a good overall player, even with those numbers, but it does make it difficult to become like a superstar player when you're just not hitting lefties. So, Brandon Lau, big hit last night. 10-0 is the record now for Tampa Bay. First team since 1987. When this pack of Donruss baseball cards came out, we haven't had a team start 10-0 since this thing. That's how far back it goes in the files. So congrats to the Rays. Big win taking on the Red Sox later tonight. More on that game to come. Another big moment also in the southeastern quadrant of the United States of America happened in Atlanta last night, where one of their newcomers, Sean Murphy, had his big moment.
And Derek Law's first pitch is hit to center field. Friedel back, still going. That ball is gone. Sean Murphy, his first homer as an Atlanta Brave, and it's a walk-off game winner.
There it is. Big moment for Sean Murphy. A 10th inning bomb to come from behind to get a victory against the Cincinnati Reds. Now, even with that hit, you heard them say on the broadcast, first home run of the season for Murphy. Even with that hit, it's been a pretty slow start for him. He's hitting .240. He's got the 1 home run, 5 RBIs. Now, he was the big addition for the Braves. Hopefully this moment will matter. Hopefully that excitement that you saw courtesy of the Braves television broadcast will matter. But I think what's going to matter the most is where they hit him in this lineup. I was pro Murphy coming into the season. Here's what happened, though. We started the season, and where was Sean Murphy at in the batting lineup? I looked it up. 5th on day 1, 8th on day 2. He hit 7th in game 3, and then he hit 6th in game 4. Let me say that again. 5, 8, 7, 6. Put it another way. 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 straight games, first 4 games of his career, all in different spots in the lineup. Okay, that doesn't make you happy. How about the last 4 games he's played? The last 4, he has hit 5th or 4th in each of the last 4 games. Now, what's been the difference? The difference has been Michael Harris Jr. Michael Harris II, as he likes to go by, is out with a back injury. You take him out of that Braves lineup, it weakens. I mean, last night they're playing Eli White in center field. He's batting 9th. So I don't want to sit here and say that Harris is locked and loaded for the number 4, the number 5 spot. But he is until Michael Harris gets back. And Harris is dealing with a back injury. We'll cross our fingers. They don't think it's anything severe, but we'll see. I will tell you this, too. If Sean Murphy has more moments like that, Sean Murphy will stay 4th or 5th in the lineup. That was kind of my expectation coming into the year, is that Sean Murphy is going to be that rare catcher on a really good team, a team that has Ron Acuna and Austin Riley and Ozzie Albies and, all this talent. It's going to be that rare guy who hits 4th and can drive those guys in. He gets all this RBI potential. Thus far, it hasn't been there. One other thing I'll throw out with Murphy, and I think this is important to note. He's been, about 4 years in baseball. I know this because I have owned Sean Murphy, and I looked it up today to give you the exact numbers. He is a very slow starter, really slow starter. I don't want to say he's ice cold in April and May, but as the weather heats up, Sean Murphy has always heated up. Here are the numbers. April and May in his career, he is a 209 hitter in his career. He slugs under 400. He's barely a 300 OBP. That's in his career for the months of April and May. So we've got a bit of a track record. I mean, it's not like 500 games of April and May play, but it is over 100 in these 2 months. And you'll see it. If you look at him month by month, Sean Murphy always heats up. And in Atlanta, as the weather heats up, ball carries, offense happens. So last night was good. I don't want to say last night is the beginning of a takeoff. Last night shows you what can be. Last night shows you, hey, middle of the order, a guy who knows how to hit, a guy in a good lineup, ballpark, all that stuff. Sean Murphy having his moment last night, and I think it did matter. Kind of gives you that little extra juice if you're going into this Tuesday in mid-April. Let's go to our third moment that mattered. It was a big one in Chicago, and I've got a personal backstory here. But let's go to the 9th inning at Wrigley Field when the Seattle Mariners said, hey, Jared Kelenic, you've kind of been a failure ever since you've joined us. But let's play hero. Let's do it against Michael Fulmer and the Chicago Cubs.
Kelenic, a high fly ball. Right field. If this is fair, it's gone. It's plenty fair. It's plenty gone. Off the scoreboard. Jared Kelenic tags his first of the season. It's a game-tying 9th inning home run at Wrigley.
He has been hot. We mentioned how well he was swinging the bat in Cleveland.
I saw that live last night, and there was excitement and there was anger. What do I mean by that? The excitement was, oh, I have Jared Kelenic on my team. That's exciting. Here's the anger, though, and the anger outweighed the excitement. Kelenic was not in the starting lineup in that game. So me, since I have the ability to make daily changes, I saw Kelenic wasn't in that lineup, said, oh, I'll pull him out of my lineup and stick in some other outfielder. Do something different, play this guy. Kelenic, even if he pinch hits, what's the likelihood of him having a big moment? Well, he had his big moment. I missed out on the points. I'll make it double agony, though. I also own Michael Fulmer. So not only did I miss the Jared Kelenic home run that tied the game in the 9th inning, I had to suffer through the fact that Michael Fulmer, my closer, blew the lead in the 9th inning. Now, I don't know about you, but I watched that highlight, and that looked like a bomb. But then I checked this morning, it was like 415 feet. Sometimes when you hit the scoreboard, you think, oh my God, that must have been a 600-foot shot. But that was like 415, at least is what they measured it at. Now, here's the thing with Kelenic. Came up as a full-blown uber prospect. Number 1, number 2, number 3 in baseball. That's what he was. He has not hit. This year, he's off to a pretty good start. Now, that was his first home run of the year. Right now, 30 at-bats. Jared Kelenic has an OPS of 844. Now, there are still too many strikeouts, 10 strikeouts right now for Jared Kelenic. He still really does not play against left-handers. If you look at games this year where the Mariners have had to face a lefty, you're not going to see Jared Kelenic in that lineup. You also don't see Colton Wong in that lineup. But what mattered last night is the excitement you heard there on the Mariners telecast. They need Jared Kelenic. They want him to produce. They're giving him another opportunity. Sure, he's not ready to hit against lefties. Okay, that's going to hold him back. But hopefully, as confidence builds up, as he does have success against righties, as he has more moments like that, hopefully not only does Kelenic get more of a taste against the Southpaws, but hopefully he starts to move up the lineup. If you look at him, 9 starts this year for Jared Kelenic, and this kind of tag teams on the Sean Murphy stuff. Jared Kelenic right now has hit 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th in his 9 starts. He's all over the place. They don't really know where he fits best. They're still trying to figure out things in that Mariners lineup. But that moment last night was a big one. Now, eventually the Mariners lost. Nico Horner had an extra base, or I should say an RBI hit in extra innings. So they still lost the game. But that individual moment for Kelenic might have been his best moment as a Mariner, considering the situation and kind of what he was able to pull off. You know, you're down to your last couple of outs in the 9th inning on the road. They haven't played very well this year. It was a big moment. It was a big home run. If you watch him in the dugout there, that's an excited kid having that big moment. Didn't end up well, but it was an exciting moment, and I think it does matter for Kelenic. It gives the Mariners a little more faith, a little more leash, if you will, for Kelenic to figure it out. Tell you what, let's keep the home run excitement going, shall we? Last night, the LA Dodgers were in San Francisco. First batter of the game for the Dodgers, of course, was Mookie Betts. He was facing Logan Webb, and Mookie Betts got things off to a very good start for the Dodgers.
Actually, it's a division team.
That ball's cranked deep left center field towards the gap and gone. Leadoff home run, Mookie Betts. Continues to own Logan Webb. And one batter into the season series. Dodgers have a 1-0 lead.
Dodgers television with the video there. Kudos to them. The home run's nice, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is we're halfway home. We're halfway there. What are we halfway home? Kyle, it's 10 games into the year. We're not even 1/10 of the way home. We are halfway home to Mookie Betts getting second base eligibility. That matters. Last night was his 5th game at second base. Now, in most fantasy leagues, you need 10 appearances. And some will mess with that. They'll say 10 starts or 5 starts or 10 appearances. But 10 is kind of the magical number. And I think Betts has started 4 of them. He's made the 5 appearances. He was leading off as a second baseman. We are getting a lot more of Mookie Betts as a second baseman than I think many of us thought we would. Now, this was known in spring training. Dave Roberts came out and said, sure, yeah, we're going to play Mookie Betts as a second baseman. But it's actually been a pretty long time since Mookie Betts was a second baseman. He's been playing an outfielder pretty well from the day he arrived in Los Angeles. He became an outfielder. But now we're seeing him at second base because of needs. That Gavin Lux injury kind of opened up the infield. Some guys shifted around, and second base became more of a need. They're also getting good enough things from James Outman, from Trace Thompson, from Jason Hayward. They got a little more Chris Taylor maneuverability in the outfield. We are 10, 11 games in, and Mookie Betts has, in effect, almost earned his second base eligibility. You can make the argument, and we can all say, well, Shohei Ohtani or Mike Trout or Ronald Acuna or Juan Soto or Jose Ramirez. You can make the argument. If Mookie Betts gains infield eligibility by like May 1st, which right now we're trending in that direction, that's hugely valuable. Maybe the most valuable thing you can have from a single player in fantasy baseball. You got a superstar hitter and you got a guy who can play the outfield and the infield. And he's rarely, if ever, hurt. He plays every day. He leads off. He gets plate appearances. He hits home runs. He steals bases. You could make the argument if Mookie Betts has a Mookie Betts type of season, and again, last night, the home run kind of continues that. If he has that kind of year with second base eligibility, you've got maybe the best fantasy player in all the sport. You may have the best infielder in all the sport. It's a huge edge. And for DFS players, I was talking to some DFS guys, and they're lifers. They play DraftKings, FanDuel, all that stuff. At this point, and the price tag will start going up, but at this point, I think it was over at DK. He's second base eligible, and it's like in the night that the Dodgers are in play, and you're looking for that second baseman on your DFS lineup. How can you say no to Mookie Betts? He's the most expensive guy for sure, but he's also by far the best second baseman that you can play almost every single night. And he's even one of the best outfielders. He's one of the top 4 or 5 outfielders that you can play most nights. Now you get him at second base. It's like hard to say no to the idea of starting Mookie Betts at second base every night, at least in DFS. Let's go to our 5th and final moment that mattered. It actually did not happen on the field yesterday. Unfortunately, it happened off the field. It happened because of an MRI that said, bad news. Here's the moment from Sunday when one of the hottest starters in 2023, one of the guys that is clubbing the baseball, unfortunately ran into a big-time roadblock on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, a little pop-up here in the center field, racing out Hernandez. Duvall coming on. Duvall will slide ahead.
Oh, wow.
It popped free, and he's going to be safe at first.
Oh, no.
And is he okay?
Oh, no.
Adam Duvall went down for it.
Yeah, so he lays out here. Oh, and just the glove gets stuck on the ground and slings it back.
Kind of hurts to watch, right? That was Sunday. Yesterday, we got the moment that mattered. Fractured wrist. Now, I don't know if you've been following Adam Duvall, but let me run through what Adam Duvall has done to this point in baseball. Adam Duvall, 3rd in runs scored, 6th in doubles, 3rd in home runs, 2nd in RBIs, 3rd in batting average, 4th in on-base percentage, number 1 in slugging percentage. What the Red Sox just lost there, and I know we don't vote on MVP after 10 games, but they just lost the AL MVP in Adam Duvall, and he's going to miss months with this fractured wrist. Yesterday on the show, we talked about O'Neal Cruz. That's going to be months. And then yesterday after the show, got the news on Adam Duvall. That will be months. Now, furthermore, why does that moment matter? Check out the Boston Red Sox lineup. Now, I was not a proponent of the Red Sox as is coming into this year, but this team is desperate for a guy like Adam Duvall. Now you are stuck absolutely relying on 3 guys in the middle of your lineup. And I'm not saying Duvall was like going to be a superstar, but when you have 4 guys that you're turning to, you can afford, okay, 1 or 2 of them isn't great, but the other 2 are doing well. Now we're down to 3 guys. So the pressure is amped that much more on Justin Turner, Yoshida, the import, and then Tristan Casas, who's a rookie. Now, what do you have so far from those 3 guys? Justin Turner, no home runs and 2 RBIs. Masataka Yoshida, 1 home run, 6 RBIs. Tristan Casas, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs. Right now, the OPS plus of those 3, and OPS plus normalizes everybody in baseball. 100 means you are right in the middle. You're an average hitter. Right now, Justin Turner is 52. Yoshida is 98. And Tristan Casas is 76. Boston losing Adam Duvall to this fractured wrist puts a lot of pressure on these guys. And thus far, they haven't answered the call. Duvall was. But that Red Sox team took a major, major hit. Fantasy owners took a major hit. If you're looking at Boston, well, who do they play? Raimel Tapia? I guess you could turn to Jarren Duran. Duran's interesting because Duran kind of fits today's game. Stolen bases. But I think for the time being, we're going to see a lot of Tapia. The Red Sox are a little wary of throwing Duran to the Wolves. Last year, he mostly failed when they tried that. So they've sent him back to AAA. So they'd still like to get him some seasoning. So I think for the time being, it's Tapia. Maybe a week or 2 from now, it's Jarren Duran. We know it's not going to be Adam Duvall. And that is a moment that matters because without Duvall, these other guys, Turner, who looks old. I like Justin Turner coming in this year, but these numbers are bad. And they're still hitting him 3rd. I mean, who do they turn to? They don't really have anybody to turn to. I mean, a lot is now riding on Yoshida. A lot is riding on Tristan Casas. Thus far, those guys are all below average hitters for the 2023 season. Those are the 5 moments that did matter as we get rolling here on the 5-pack. When we return, the 5 moments that will matter. That is coming your way. But first, let's turn it over to Ricky Props, who's taking a look at some NBA play-in postseason action for tonight.
Hey, it's Rick Campbell, a.k.a. Ricky Props for Better Sports Network. Let's go to the wood with Jimmy Butler tonight at home against Atlanta, over 27.5 points, minus 115. Atlanta allowed the 8th most points to small forwards. He was 25 against Atlanta this year and 26 post-All-Star. Bam Adebayo, same game, over 2.5 assists, minus 160. Great matchup against Atlanta. This year, 4 assists per game. Last year, 4.5 assists per game. Trae Young at the Heat, under 33.5 combo points and assists. Miami allows the 4th fewest points and 8th fewest assists to point guards. Trae averaged 30-point assist combo against Miami this year. And then Anthony Edwards at the Lakers, over 38.5 combo points, rebounds, and assists, minus 120. No Gobert. No McDaniels. Edwards is going to have to do a lot more. He's been over this number in 3 of the last 4. Go to bettersports.com and on demand with the Better Sports Network app and hit us up at Better Network on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter.
Welcome back to the 5-pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
Welcome back in on this Tuesday afternoon, Better Sports Network. Want to remind you that we have a BSN newsletter. We send it out every morning. It's got a bet of the day. It's got some features. It's got the rundown of the schedule, maybe some new contest. Anything happening at the Better Sports Network is located in that newsletter each and every morning. Have it delivered directly into your inbox. All you need to do is go and register right now at bettersports.com. We have given you the 5 moments that mattered from last night. Let us get to a look ahead to this evening with a busy MLB slate. I believe everybody is in action on this Tuesday night. Game time, though, kind of scattered all over the place. We have some games at 5 o'clock Eastern, 6:30 Eastern, 7, 9, 10. So if you are a baseball lifer, tonight's your chance to sit back and watch, 9 hours of baseball as you go through your Tuesday evening. As you sit there, what should you follow? What should you care about? Well, I've got 5 things that I believe are going to matter for this Tuesday night. Starting in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Phillies got a huge win last night against the Miami Marlins, and they beat the heck out of Sandy Alcantara. The reigning Cy Young winner gave up 9 runs against the Phillies. Phillies scored 15 runs in that game. What's notable is, did you see the lineup that the Phillies put out? For the first time this year, Trey Turner was not leading off. Kyle Schwarber was not hitting second. And for the first time this year, Bryson Stott was leading off. So as we look ahead to tonight, is this guy going to be leading off again for the Phillies? I think he probably will. After all, you make a lineup change and you score 15 times, you're probably going to stick with what worked, right? So we got Bryson Stott as your leadoff guy. Okay, let's stop this before it gets too out of control. Don't listen to your Philly buddies, okay? Bryson Stott ain't legit, okay? Bryson Stott is a guy off to a good start. It's a really good start. He's got a hit in all 10 games. I think he has 7 multi-hit games. It's good. They're starting to play him against left-handers. Okay, I get it. Philadelphia is struggling. He's the best, or he's the hottest hitter going right now in the Phillies lineup, so they vault him to number 1. Here's the thing with Stott. Right now, the only thing he brings to you in the fantasy world is the ability to steal a base and to score runs. And the runs scored is only because if he were to hit at the top of the order. I looked it up this morning. His BABIP is 531. If you know anything about baseball, you know he's going to lose 150 points at least on that BABIP. And as soon as that disappears, everything disappears. So I'm not getting carried away with this Bryson Stott thing. Now, will he lead off? Again, I think he's going to be in there tonight. If you were to sit here and tell me, hey, Kyle, Bryson Stott's going to lead off for the next 3 months, which to me makes no sense. You have Trey Turner. But if that were to happen, there is a slight possibility it could work. If you look at Bryson Stott, he had 2 years in the minors. His OBP was about 390. It was solid. And if you could pull off a 390 OBP in the major leagues, or even 370, 360, and lead off for the Phillies, you'd rack up some numbers. Now, I don't think this is happening. I don't. Not at all. He may lead off for like 5 days, and they say, let's go back to Trey Turner. Tonight, it's going to happen. He's probably going to lead off, okay? So I understand that. But I cannot imagine that this is part of a long-term plan with Philadelphia. This is right now trying to find that proverbial spark. They need that spark. They may get it for the time being, but Bryson Stott, if you're saying, wow, this is great, look at his numbers. Now he's leading off. Slow down. Slow down. Tonight, he'll probably be leading off again, and it matters for tonight, but long-term, ain't going to matter. Tell you another lineup that I'm paying attention to tonight. Minnesota. What do the Twins give us? Most directly, do we see Carlos Correa in this lineup? He missed a second straight game yesterday, not with the ankle. Remember, everybody was worried about the ankle. It's a sore lower back. Now, Correa always seems to be fighting something. You know, he's just kind of one of those guys who has got a twinge here, and a pull there, and a strain over here. He's had a back injury once before, but it was like 4 or 5 years ago. So unlike the ankle, which everybody thinks is going to ruin him 5 years from now, hopefully this back thing is just minor. I hate back injuries. Is Correa going to be in this lineup or not tonight? It matters to me. Now, I was going to give him a pass because it's April and he plays in Minneapolis, and it could be cold. And then I looked up the temperatures. Friday in Minneapolis, it was in the 40s. Okay, that could cause a stiff back to act up. Saturday was the 50s, Sundays was the 60s, and yesterday was the 60s. So I can't give him a pass on the weather. What I can tell you is they say this back was injured when he was trying to avoid a tag at home plate on Saturday. Okay, that's fine. I can tell you Carlos Correa has been one of the weakest hitters in baseball this year. Here are the numbers for Carlos Correa. 6 for 33, no home runs, 2 RBIs. He has 10 strikeouts in those 33. It's a bad start. It is. And this is not, hey, let's build the tombstone and rack it up on Carlos Correa. He's not finished. This is a slow start. It's a bad start. It makes one wonder, has the back been hurting more than just Saturday? That's what I wonder when I look at Carlos Correa. I don't think he's going to play tonight. If he's back in the lineup tonight, it is good news, but I think we're going to miss a third straight game here. And again, lower back injuries. We talked about Brandon Lau earlier in today's show. Brandon Lau was a guy who, the back's aching early in the season. Then eventually it's just like, you can't do anything. Shut him down. You play 60 games. We're not there with Correa, but something to follow, something that matters tonight. Is he back in that lineup for the Minnesota Twins? Let's go to our third item. Another thing that will matter for tonight. Coors Field. Doesn't everybody goes to Coors Field to like eat up on the Rockies, to make good on the thin air, to hit home runs, to drive in runners, to score 10, 11, 12 times a game? That's why everybody goes to Coors Field, right? Well, there is a guy in Coors Field this week, St. Louis Cardinals playing the Rockies, that needs to get some Coors cooking. Talking about Wilson Contreras, newcomer to the Cardinals. Birds lose last night. Been a very rough start for St. Louis. They're 3-7. Wilson Contreras, brand new to the Cardinals. What has he done? A bunch of nothing. He hits fifth every time out. He bats behind Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. Those guys are doing fine. Arenado had another couple of RBIs last night. They're doing fine. Wilson Contreras, 2 RBIs with those 2 guys ahead of you? Give me a break. Rough start. Now, here's the thing with Contreras. You go to Coors Field and you're like, okay, this will erase the slow start, right? We'll be done with this. I looked it up today. You know what's crazy about Wilson Contreras? He's like the only guy I've ever seen who doesn't do anything at Coors Field. So I don't even know if last night, today, and tomorrow is going to help Wilson Contreras. Check out these numbers. This is 62 plate appearances. I think it was 15 or 16 games. In those games at Coors Field, okay? And this is a good hitter, going to Coors. Wilson Contreras is hitting 220. Wilson Contreras is getting on base at a 258 clip, and his slugging percentage is 373. His OPS at Coors Field, a power hitter who comes to Coors Field, do you expect him to feast for his career? It's like 620. It's nothing. He's terrible at Coors Field. So I was gonna say when it matters, like Wilson Contreras, let's do it. You're playing at Coors Field. Let's get rolling. Let's figure things out. Let's have some good moments in St. Louis with your new team. I'm not counting on it now. Now, if you delve into the numbers, here's a couple of things going on with Contreras. And again, small sample size, but here's a couple of things going on. Number one, his fly ball rate is about twice what it usually is. We're talking 40%. It's usually in the 20s. His pull rate is 16%. It's usually up in the high 20s. So we have a guy who's not pulling the baseball and seems to be getting under every single pitch. Like that doubling of the fly ball rate is kind of crazy. He's in effect hitting a bunch of pop-ups right now, and he's not pulling them. So he's off. He's cold, whatever. But I thought, hey, man, you get to Coors Field, it's going to be fine. Now, a positive for Contreras, because I can't say it's Coors Field. He does nothing there. But a positive for Contreras is the fact that if you look at the exit velocity for this season, and you said, okay, the season ends today, whatever, he'd be at 91.5. That would be his second best ever exit velocity. And this is a guy with, 7 years under his belt. That would be, he's usually in the high 80s, 89 miles an hour. He's at 91.5, which is a significant plus for him. So you hope it's a cold start. You hope he can figure it out at Coors. I think he'll be fine. Like anybody who drafted him as the 5th or 6th catcher off the board, you're still going to get typical Contreras numbers. But right now, the early returns are rough because, again, Goldschmidt and Arenado are doing their thing for the most part. Contreras is not. And one of the major pluses the Cardinals had coming into this year was that 3.45. Like it's a monstrous 3.45. Like if you got by Goldschmidt and if you got by Arenado, you sure as heck weren't going to get by Wilson Contreras. That's the way they built the lineup. Thus far, in the 3-7 start, Contreras, he's been MIA, missing in action there for the Cardinals. Let's go to number 4 in our things that matter for tonight. Last night, we finally got to see kind of what we expect to see from Max Scherzer. I talked about it on the show yesterday. First 2 starts for Max Scherzer, not all that good. Last night against the Padres was more Scherzer-esque. It's not all the way back. I mean, he was not dominant. The results were good. It was the best of his 3 starts. So you say, okay, I feel okay about Scherzer. It'll be fine. He did well against the Padres. Tough matchup. He pitched well. Now tonight, we've got another dude who's making his 3rd start. He, like Scherzer, Cy Young contender, first 2 starts have not been good. Tonight, he's in Arizona. Corbin Burnes. We got to get Corbin Burnes right. We got to turn this guy around. Again, 2 starts. I'm not raising gigantic red flags and saying it's over. But here are the numbers. In his first 2 starts, 9 1/3 innings, 11 hits, 10 earned runs, 5 walks. He has just 6 strikeouts in 9 1/3 innings. Why is that important? Because last year, Corbin Burnes struck out 11 dudes for every 9 innings. He's got 6 in 9 1/3 innings this season. It's 2 starts. It's early, yada, yada, yada. The one thing with Burnes, and to an extent, Scherzer had this. Like with Scherzer, you kind of said, well, maybe this pitch clock thing is bothering him. And he, to an extent, admitted and has admitted as much, like the pitch clock it's just a little different for him. And granted, he's in his upper 30s. It's understandable. He's been playing baseball differently for 30 years. And now all of a sudden they spring a pitch clock. With Burnes, I haven't seen or heard anything on the pitch clock, like that's throwing him off. With Burnes, I just relate back to spring training when he showed up in Arizona and he had just lost the arbitration hearing with the Brewers, and the dude was pissed. He was angry. I hate the process and I hate the team, and they made me feel like I was the reason the Brewers didn't make the postseason last year. It wasn't anything with the team or with the idea of trading Josh Hader. It was Corbin Burnes. They pretty well. And he spoke very publicly about being angry with the Brewers. And there are winds swirling about a trade at some point this year or next year with Corbin Burnes. They're not going to re-sign him in Milwaukee. They aren't. I mean, the guy is going to want $25, $30 million a year. So they're not going to re-sign him. But they may very well trade him. And it could happen this year. First 2 starts, not good. Tonight, start number 3, taking on Arizona. We'll see if he can turn around and flip the script there. Finally, our fifth moment that will matter for tonight. It may be April 11th. We may be almost 2 weeks into the season. But tonight, we've got a couple of debuts. Whitlock and Wright. Garrett Whitlock will make a start. His first one since coming, I guess you could call it a hip injury in the offseason. Red Sox have kind of taken it slow with him getting back into the major leagues. But he will pitch tonight against the undefeated Tampa Bay Rays. And then Kyle Wright, who might I remind everybody had 21 victories last year. Kyle Wright will take the ball against Cincinnati. So debuts tonight. Here's where I stand on both guys, and this will sound probably rather silly. I'd rather have Whitlock than Kyle Wright for the season. I would. And you might say, well, wait a second. Kyle Wright, 21 victories last year? Are you silly, Kyle? I guess I am. I look at Kyle Wright, and I don't see the profile of a 20 to 21 winner or even like a 15-game winner. And I hate to say, oh, he was lucky. He got the wins, okay? And he pitched well. And I know last year the arsenal was a bit different. The big thing with Wright last season is like his velo kicked up everywhere. His fastball was more fast. His curveball, his sinker, like all these things were better. They were faster, I should say, which is great. And that led to more success. I mean, obviously, he had a great season with 21 victories. But here's the problem. You added that extra velocity. What is the injury that Kyle Wright has? It's a shoulder. Okay, I'm worried about that. He does not have like great peripheral numbers. And that kind of speaks again to maybe the luck factor. Like Wright doesn't go out there and do what Corbin Burns does. He doesn't go out there and whiff 10.5 or 11 batters through 9. He's not that guy. He is a guy who gets strikeouts, decent amount, nothing special, but good enough. And then he makes you put the ball in play, and defense makes the play, and he lasts 6 innings. And what do you know? He has a W. To me, I don't see Kyle Wright as like a dominant pitcher. He's a fine pitcher. He's an SP3 or 4 for the Atlanta Braves. You look at the win total, and traditionally we think, oh my God, in the 1990s, that's your ace. No, it's Max Fried. No, it's Spencer Strider. It's not Kyle Wright. So he's going to be back tonight. I worry about this shoulder because, again, added velocity last year. It worked. You know, he threw a lot of innings, got a lot of wins, but then he was hurt. So are we able to add this velocity and stay healthy? That'll be the question. As for Garrett Whitlock, he's a tough nut to crack because the Red Sox won't give us an answer. Is he a starter or is he a reliever? He's relieved more than he started. They've always long-term said, hey, we want this guy to be a starter. It appears, fingers crossed, like Garrett Whitlock's going to be a starter this year. He'll make the start tonight against Tampa. I will have faith in the process that the hip injury is nothing more than what they say, an impingement. It's nothing severe. He'll be fine. He's got the arsenal. Like I look at the pitch tracking and the stuff, and if you were to stack Whitlock against Wright, for me, it's Whitlock. You've got a slider, you got a sinker, you got a very good changeup. Like he has 3+ pitches. Doesn't help that he has to pitch in the American League East, and it also doesn't help that really we haven't seen 100 innings of Garrett Whitlock. Last year, mostly out of the bullpen, 75 to 80 innings. The year before that, 75 to 80 innings. If you're honest about this with Garrett Whitlock, returning tonight, it's early April, you could say, well, he only missed a couple of starts. Garrett Whitlock, to me, is going to max out at like 110 innings. Even if they're good, I don't see the Red Sox continuing to push him. I think he's kind of hoping for 100 innings. That's where I am saying with Garrett Whitlock. I do think he will stay in the rotation, which is a big plus, and I do think he'll be pretty good this year. Neither guy is somebody I'm hyped for, but it's good to see both back. And if I had to choose one of the two who are making their debuts tonight, give me Whitlock over Kyle Wright of the Braves. Those are the 5 things that will matter for tonight. Some lineup news, some pitchers making their debuts. Corbin Burns trying to get back to his Cy Young level. We'll see how it goes on this Tuesday night. Take a quick breather here. When we return on the 5-pack, we get to the pack. 88 Dunruss is coming your way. I don't know where the stories will take me. I just look at the cars and kind of tell you whatever pops off the top of my head. We will do that next. Coming your way right here on the 5-pack on BSN.
Amazingly enough, the NFL draft just 16 days away. The quarterbacks obviously have been a huge topic of conversation. Let's look at them, shall we? Because I think each and every one of them, its beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What do you want to focus in on? CJ Stroud, the talented quarterback coming out of Ohio State, inconsistent during the regular season, brilliant in one of the national semifinals against Georgia. You look at Will Levis, unbelievably athletic, but there are issues when you look at win percentage and also when you look at completion percentage when he was a starter for the Kentucky Wildcats. Young down at Alabama, unbelievably competitive. They talk about the fact that the moment never is too big for him, but he's also got a size issue and he's also got a weight issue. And that is a case of what is his playing weight in the National Football League? And is it a little bit too light for him to be able to handle the barbaric sport that we all love, which is the National Football League? Then you get to Anthony Richardson, who some have compared to Cam Newton. He himself has done that. He's unbelievably athletic. He wowed scouts at the scouting combine, wowed him again at the Florida Pro Day. So which quarterback is going to ultimately be the best? For my money, I'd probably take the guy that I trust the most, and that's Young coming out of Alabama. I think he ends up being the best of this group, not taking anything away from Levis, not taking anything away from Richardson or CJ Stroud. I also think it depends on which spots those other three prospects land, and are they given the proper time, especially with Richardson and Levis, to be able to develop, sit behind a veteran quarterback, and then not start right away. For more content like this, go to Better Sports Network app, bettersports.com, and at Better Network on all your social media platforms.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-Pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Making our way through a Tuesday here on the Better Sports Network. Since it is a Tuesday, I should remind you, coming up later tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern, the Tour Junkies will get you set for all things PGA. Of course, I'm sure they'll have some very notable and well-researched thoughts from the Masters this past weekend. Jon Rahm victorious. And they'll look ahead to the upcoming weekends. So if you are into the PGA world, DFS are season long. Hit up the Tour Junkies coming your way tonight at 7 Eastern. It is now time for our pack break right here on the 5-Pack. This is a daily part of everything that we do. Now, yesterday, I opened up a pack of 89 tops. That's what I was looking at. And we kind of had to speed through a couple things. There was nothing truly special. What did catch my eye, and I promise to do this from time to time with the pack breaks, is sometimes I'll open up a pack and, while we're live on air, it's like, I kind of wonder about that guy, but is my story right? Am I saying it correctly? Am I remembering it correctly? And yesterday we had a guy pop up, Ty Griffin. There he is. He was number one pick by the Chicago Cubs back in, 1989. Had a great career at Georgia Tech. And it got me thinking, did Ty Griffin ever make it? So on occasion, whenever something pops up like this, I'll take a look back after the show and come back the next day and update you. Because I love the stories, and I think a lot of you like the stories. That's why we do the pack break. Ty Griffin, 9th overall pick by the Chicago Cubs. Ty Griffin never played a day in Major League Baseball. And honestly, he was kind of out of the game after 4 years in the minors. And he didn't do anything in the minors. But what I found notable is after 3 years in the minors, and I think he made it up to AA, maybe AAA with the Cubs, they traded him in like 1992 for a nobody. They traded Ty Griffin to the Reds. And, this after 3 years. 3 years before, he'd been a top 10 overall pick. And he had not been horrendous in the minors, but he had shown no real progression. Anyway, Ty Griffin goes to the Reds. They put him in AAA in Chattanooga, I think it was. And after a year, they release him. They're just like done with him. And this is one of those guys, we always hear about these guys. Oh, they're going to be great. They're going to be studs. And the Cubs thought that. And maybe the Reds thought, oh, we'll take a shot on Ty Griffin. Maybe we can fix him. Cubs gave him 3 years, Reds gave him a year, and boom, out of baseball. I looked him up today, and I've come to the conclusion that when your career ends with the Grand Forks Varmints, when your career ends with them of the Prairie League, then your career has not gone according to plan. Not picking on Ty Griffin. It's just, these are one of those guys, you always think first round pick, they're going to be a hit. They're at least going to make the major leagues. He is but one example of a guy who did not make it. Now, another guy we got in that pack, Sandy Alomar Jr., he made it. He was a future star. Okay, let's get to our 1988 Donruss. This is a year before the Alomar Jr. card and the Ty Griffin card. Puzzles and cards. Now, check that out. That's what's funny. I'm buying a pack of cards, and Donruss is leading with the fact that it's actually puzzle and cards. Really? Like, it wasn't enough to say, oh, I just want the cards. We're going to lead with the fact that I can build a puzzle in my cards. I don't know about the marketing with Donruss, and they're not with us anymore. They were actually owned by Leaf. But anyway, 1988 Donruss. These are ugly cards. Don't like these cards at all. But we have to go through it. We have a different pack every day. So this one popped up. So that's what we're dealing with. Now, these puzzle cards, it says you get 3 puzzle cards. This is what you get. Now, I don't know about you, but when somebody says I get 3 of something, but it's actually I get 1 that features 3, is that really 3 of something? It's 3 pieces, but 1 card. You get 1 puzzle card, Donruss. Don't pull this crap of 3 puzzle cards. Junk. I think the puzzle builds a Stan Musial print of some kind. Yeah. These are pieces. Man, this puzzle was 63 pieces. Now, understand, randomly inserted the 3 pieces. 63. I mean, you buy a wax box, what was it, 36 packs back in 1988? I mean, you buy a wax box, you're not even guaranteed to get in 63 pieces. I kind of joked that the puzzle thing was a waste of everyone's time. It's kind of difficult to put together. It's a lot of puzzle pieces. Anyway, I've got 7, 8, and 9. These are actually known as trash. That's what these are actually. Usually you'd get these and you just throw them away. So nobody built the puzzle piece. We'll have to see someday what the puzzle piece put together would have been worth. Okay, let's get into our 88 Donruss. I say an ugly card. At least we lead off with a player everybody's heard of. Still to this day, you can catch him on New York Mets television broadcast. He will be there tonight when the Mets take on the Padres. Talking about Keith Hernandez. Oh, Keith Hernandez. Came over from the St. Louis Cardinals, landed in New York, became a hero of those 86 Mets team, that World Series winning team. And he's got the old man power stance. Why is it only left-handers stand like this? That was Keith Hernandez. Still, man, I mean, look at the years. You understand why he became a hero. He comes to the Mets, and remember, the Mets, when Keith Hernandez showed up, he was kind of that move. Who was it? You could say like a few years back when San Diego went out and got Eric Hosmer or Manny Machado. They weren't really ready to contend, but they were building to that point. And so Hosmer comes in. He's going to be the veteran leader. That's kind of what Hernandez was doing when he came over in 84. Now, the Cardinals wanted to get rid of him. He actually came over in the middle of 83. But the Cardinals were wanting to get rid of him. He had some issues off the field in St. Louis. So he landed in New York. The Mets had not been good, but they were getting better. Strawberry good and all these guys were making their run. Hernandez shows up. He becomes the veteran leader. In 84, he hits 311. In 85, he hits 309. In 86, the World Series winning year, he hits 310. And in 87, he hits 290. He also played, here are the games played, 154, 158, 149, 154. It's a good player. Good player. Not a Hall of Famer, but a good player. Another guy, first baseman, left-handed, had some big moments in the early, I guess, 83, 84. Leon Durham, baby. Leon Durham. Look at that guy. I mean, he looks good in pinstripes. Now, Leon Durham had that big 84 year with the Cubbies. In 84, 23 homers, 96 ribbies. I don't think he ever matched that again. Now, I look at this guy. Now, think of this. This is, we talk about stolen bases here in 2023, and everybody's excited. Leon Durham, in that 84 year, 23 homers, 96 ribbies. He hit 280, power hitter kind of guy, first baseman. 16 stolen bases, baby. This guy, what is it? 6'2", 210. Leon Durham. I also love in the 80s, they say where the player was born, where he lives. Back in the 80s, people just kind of stayed where they grew up. They weren't looking for like a tax haven or better weather. Now everybody lives in Arizona, Florida, California. Leon Durham, Cincinnati, Ohio is where he makes his home. Man, we are reliving some glory days. We got the 84 season from Durham when the Cubs actually made the postseason. We have the 86 Mets year when the Cubs, when the Mets won the World Series. And here's a guy who, if you know anything about the 86 World Series, you'll remember his role in that World Series. Calvin Schiraldi. Calvin Schiraldi actually started the 86 year with the Mets. They traded him to the Red Sox. Calvin Schiraldi is the guy who crumbled against the Mets in Game 6. The whole Buckner thing, Mookie Wilson hitting the chopper up the first baseline. Schiraldi was the guy who got the Red Sox into trouble. Remember, a former Met. He had just been traded the year before. And Bob Stanley was on the hill when the Buckner play happened. But Schiraldi was the guy who kind of crumbled. He kind of let the pressure get to him. Yeah, pretty decent player. Now we go to an outfielder who just looks like he was meant to rip the baseball. Gary Ward of the New York Yankees. Looked like he could rip the baseball, never really did. Another legend of the 80s. My gosh, this 1988 pack is becoming legends of the 80s. And this is a true legend. Current Hall of Famer, all-time Hall of Famer, I guess, Jack Morris. Look at that. You know, you think you could find a better, more exciting photo of Jack Morris, maybe. And here's another guy who's still doing broadcasts. I think he's with the Twins broadcast. So Jack Morris. What was his? Let's look at these wins, losses. See, Jack Morris was one of those guys like the Kyle Wright. Just got wins, baby. Just got wins. 20, 19, 16, 21, and 18. Whew. Lee Mazzilli, another part of that 86 Mets team. Man, there's something about this pack that's taken us to the mid-80s. This guy does not. This guy looks like he's an alien life form. Mike Griffin. Yikes, Mike Griffin. He's the perfect Baltimore Oriole, though. Not only an orange mitt, but an orange mustache, an orange haircut, and an orange bill with the orange Oriole. Mike Griffin, the all-time Baltimore Oriole. Gary Redus of the Chicago White Sox. Gary Redus was always kind of a cool cat. Played with Cincinnati, I think with the Phillies for a bit. Never really became anything special, but had some strong seasons. You know, it's funny. I say never became anything special. These are numbers that just don't compute. Gary Redus, just a guy, right? 1983, 39 steals. 84, 48 steals. 85, 48 steals. 86, 25 steals. 87, 52 steals for Gary Redus. Just a guy. He'd be like the all-time stolen base guy in baseball now. Diamond Kings. Dunris was famous for Diamond Kings. Here's a good one. Mark McGwire, coming off that massive 87 season. 49 homers, 118 ribbies in that rookie year. He hit 290. As it says here on the back of the baseball card, he is a young, powerful, and exciting Diamond King, Mark McGwire. Nowadays, he's not known for being a Diamond King. John Franco, another Met/Reds, saved a lot of games. Tom Nieto. You'd always have to have a Tom Nieto on your team. Backup catcher. That's what you wanted from guys like Tom Nieto. Speaking of saves, and this would be a good battle someday, would you rather have John Franco or Tom Hinkie? Ooh, Tom Hinkie. Nothing scares you coming out of a bullpen more than those glasses, right? Dude, I don't know. Paul Noce. Couldn't even take off his batting. Look, it looks like he's got a shirt. I wonder what that says underneath. Steve Lake, another backup catcher. And then Charles Hudson. There it is. Our 88 Dunris pack break. With some actual Hall of Famers, World Series winners, good names. I like it. That pack beat yesterday's. We're back again tomorrow with more of the 5-pack. 12 Eastern on BSN.